You're headed in for another day of work. Your drive was uneventful, and as you walk through the lobby and step into the elevator, you're basically running on autopilot. After all, you've made the same trip hundreds of times before, so there's no need to worry, right? That's when you hear it. Some strange sounds are coming from the elevator, and you start to wonder if something is wrong. You start pressing buttons to try to get the elevator to stop, but nothing is happening. Not 2 seconds later, you hear a loud snapping sound, and your worst nightmare has just become a reality. Turns out, the elevator cables were on their last legs, and now that they've snapped, you're plummeting towards the bottom of the shaft. Here's Survive the Impossible, a free-falling elevator. Elevators have been around in one form or another for quite a long time. Did you know that the first one might have been built in Roman times by Archimedes in the year 236 BC? Back then, elevators worked with simple hemp ropes pulled by people or animals. Today, elevators are obviously much more advanced. Completely automated elevators were around by 1900 and saw wider adoption after the New York City elevator operator strike of 1945. Also around that time, safety features like an emergency stop button and emergency telephone were added. Safety-wise, they've come a long way since the beginning. Elevators on average only get stuck every 1 in 5,000 trips, and most of the time, a stuck elevator is nothing more than an inconvenience. But what about getting stuck in a falling elevator? Thanks to modern safety features, elevators only enter freefall about once every 10 million trips. The most common cause of injury from elevators is actually having a door close on a body part. 1945 has the only confirmed case of an elevator free-falling because of snapped cables. The incident happened when a B-25 bomber crashed into the Empire State Building, severing the cables of an elevator in the process. A woman was inside the elevator at the time of the fall, but she managed to survive with only a few broken bones after a pile of coiled cable at the bottom of the shaft lessened the impact. But what about if you end up in that situation? Should you jump? Should you bend your knees? And how do you avoid breaking your bones? Step 1. Pay attention. If you pay attention to the way the elevator is acting, you might be able to avoid trouble before it happens. For example, you might notice that the buttons don't seem responsive, or that there's odd noises coming from above. If something seems off, you might be able to save yourself a scary situation by getting off and changing elevators before you end up faced with a free fall. Step 2. Don't brace for impact. You might have heard that the best way to survive a falling elevator is to bend your knees and brace for the impact. However, this method doesn't really hold up if you consider physics. Because of how gravity works, the speed of the falling elevator will make your body seem heavier than it actually is. When the elevator hits the bottom of the shaft, the downward force is going to be a lot more than your legs and knees can actually support. Unless you want broken legs and potentially a bunch of other broken things, this method isn't a great idea. Step 3. Don't jump. Another popular method in pop culture is jumping right before the impact. Unfortunately, this one is also more fiction than fact. The fact of the matter is that unless you have superhuman timing, you're unlikely to jump at the right moment to avoid getting hurt. You're more likely to worsen your injuries by hitting your head against the top of the elevator and landing badly. Also, even if you had inhuman reflexes and timed your jump perfectly, this strategy really wouldn't slow you down enough to make a significant difference. This one is another survival strategy that's best to leave to Hollywood. Step 4. Lie flat. If you actually want to improve your chances of survival, you should lay on your back. It might seem counterintuitive to do this, since it exposes more of your body to the shock of the impact. However, that's the very reason this method works. Basically, the impact's force will be distributed more evenly across your body, reducing the overall lethality. That's not to say that you'll walk away unharmed. You're still taking a fall that's probably quite fast and from a large height. But if you're lucky, you'll only walk away with minor injuries. Step 5. Protect your head. Your brain, and by extension your head, are the most important parts of your body. If you're lying on your back, you should take special care to protect your head. You can do this by placing your hands behind your head and neck to support those areas while you lie there. It's not a perfect solution, but if you're in this position, you'll have better odds of surviving than if you braced for impact or tried jumping in the air. What about if you fell from the tallest building in the world? Watch this video to learn those steps.